this video. What's up, everyone? Checking this video out. If you're watching it, thanks for watching. If you're not, you're not. I don't really care. This video is about Chris Benoit and if he should he ever get put in the Hall of Fame, in the WWE Hall of Fame. These are all my opinions on Chris Benoit and his career and the Hall of Fame. I've been on Twitter a long time, about 4 to 5 years. I've been on Twitter a lot. Since 2011, 2012, I've been on it basically full time. Whenever I have free time, I go on Twitter and I use it. I'm a big fan of Twitter. But why am I bringing up Twitter? Because Twitter has a lot to do with why I'm doing this video. To talk about Chris Benoit and the tragedy that happened with him 8 years ago. He was discovered. His body was discovered on June 24th. No, he died. He did suicide. Killed himself on June 24th. His body was discovered on June 25th, 2007. So I'm not very good at math. But simple math, that's 8 years. 8 years ago, he did this to himself and his young son and his wife, Nancy. Formerly, she was in the wrestling business in WCW as a woman. She was around in 1989 and 90, and she was in ECW also. She was a manager of the Sandmans for a long time in ECW. Then she went back to WCW. She managed Ric Flair. She was with the Four Horsemen in '96. And then she managed Chris Benoit in '96 and '97 when Chris Benoit was a member of the Horsemen. But I'm not here to talk about Nancy's career. Anyways, 8 years ago, this happened. This tragedy struck the wrestling business. This absolute tragedy should have never happened. I wish it never happened, but it did. And a lot of people, not just on Twitter that I've heard from, but just, I guess, people that were huge fans of Chris Benoit, I've heard from. And they're trying to defend Chris Benoit and what he did by saying his brain was so messed up because he had so many concussions. I believe in his career, he probably had over 15 concussions. And the guy could have had dementia in his brain. And they said they tested his brain, did a test on his brain after he was dead, and his brain was like a 75-year-old man, 75-year-old man's brain, and he was like 46 years old, maybe younger. I'm not sure how old he was when he died. I forget. But his brain, if his brain was like a 76-year-old man that could not think anymore and his brain just snapped because he couldn't think, and maybe he just snapped because he had so many concussions in his wrestling career, fine. But I'm sorry, Chris Benoit fans and people that defend what he did. That's an excuse. That is a bullshit fucking excuse. Because he did what he did. Even if his brain was a 76-year-old man, what he did was wrong. Really, really wrong. And I condemn it. And you should too. The guy the guy's a murderer. And I've heard from his friends, people that knew him, Chavo Guerrero, Chris Jericho, people like that. Jericho said all his times he had with Chris Benoit that he was always a quiet guy and he would give his shirt off his back to any one of his friends and help anybody out. I'm sure that's true, but that is no excuse for what he did. What he did was murder his son and murder his wife and then kill himself. And he should have just quit wrestling, told the WWE he needed time off to go get some help from a doctor, go get some mental help. The guy's brain was ill before he did this murder, and then he killed himself. His brain was fucked up, and the concussions probably did have a lot to do with it. But that's no excuse. And the guy was a great wrestler. We know that. The guy was a great technical wrestler. We know that. The guy was a great athlete and a great talent in the ring. He was one of the best, no doubt. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to sit here and lie and tell you that Chris Benoit was not a great wrestler, because he was. But again, that's no excuse for what he did. And I cannot look past what he did to his son and his wife. And I can't look past his wrestling career. Sure, it was a Hall of Fame career. But the real answer is, and I'm going to give you the answer right now, the real question I've been getting from a lot of people on Twitter the past 4 to 5 years. I've been getting this question tweeted to me on and off from a lot of people. I don't know why they're asking me and why they care what I think, but people want to know my opinion on if Chris Benoit should get put in the WWE Hall of Fame. And I'm going to answer everybody's question right now. I'm going to answer it. I'm sure I answered it on Twitter a couple years ago, and probably last year and the year before. And a couple days ago, I even got a tweet telling me again that they think Chris Benoit had a Hall of Fame in-ring career. That's their opinion. That's fine. My opinion. I cannot get past what Chris Benoit did to his son and his wife and then killing himself. I cannot get past or get over what he did in June of 2007. He shook the wrestling world to its core. He shocked the wrestling world, and he put a lot of bad light was put on the wrestling business in WWE. Was basically WWE took a bullet that they shouldn't have had to take because of what Chris Benoit did. Basically, the fucking media had to turn it around and cover the story like it was WWE's fault. Like the WWE is to blame for what Chris Benoit did. They are not to blame at all. The guy was sick in the head. The guy was mentally ill, I believe. In 2007, the guy was burnt out. And I'm talking about Chris Benoit. I believe he was burnt out. He was sick of wrestling. I'm sure he wanted to get out of it. He was probably had nagging injuries. Probably for the last 3-4 years of his career, he's probably hurting every day. But I know he loved the business too much. And he couldn't, I guess his brain could not quit wrestling because he probably saw no other future for himself. He probably didn't know what the hell else to do with himself and his life after wrestling. He probably had no clue what to do and probably did not want to quit wrestling and did not want to do anything else and did not want to retire. But he should have retired, and he should have got help from professionals, and he could ask the WWE for time off, that he needed help, that he was going through a mental breakdown, and that he was burnt out. But that didn't happen. Instead, he murdered 2 people and killed himself. So everybody watching this, and people that have asked me year after year on my opinion on if Chris Benoit is a WWE Hall of Famer and if he should get in the WWE Hall of Fame, and if people want to know if I think Chris Benoit should get put in the WWE Hall of Fame, and my answer is no, he should not. And I don't think he ever will. I don't see how in any way, shape, or form, I don't see the WWE ever putting Chris Benoit in the WWE Hall of Fame. Ever. And they never should. The guy's a murderer. The guy murdered 2 people. Yeah, he had a great wrestling career. Who cares? What he did was wrong. It's unacceptable to me. It's really unacceptable. And I'm sure Chris Benoit was a great guy at one time in his life. Or maybe up until 2005 or 4. He was a great guy and he was normal. But the guy snapped. I'm sure he snapped from the concussions. And I don't know what on earth. I mean, even if you have dementia and you have a brain of a 75-year-old man, I don't see people with, I know NFL players that have had many concussions. A lot of them have committed suicide. And I understand why they would commit suicide. Their bodies are in pain from getting beat up, being in the NFL for probably over 10 years or more. Their bodies are beaten up and they probably hate living. That's why they committed suicide. But Chris Benoit, all he had to do was get some help. He didn't want to get help. Instead, he murdered his young child, and his wife. And there were signs. There were signs. I'm not talking about signs of murder and wanting to kill someone. I'm talking about there were signs of domestic abuse. And Chris Benoit had a history of, I don't know about domestic abuse, but what I read sounds like it, for sure. Of definitely verbal abuse and trying to scare his wife, Nancy. Because in 2003, Nancy, his wife, aka woman, Nancy, filed for divorce from Chris Benoit in alleged cruel treatment. She claimed he would throw furniture around, and she later dropped the suit as well as a restraining order against Chris Benoit. And my guess is she probably dropped the divorce, and dropped the restraining order because she wanted to work things out with Chris. I believe their son they had was born in 2000, so he was either 7 or 8 years old. I think he was 7 or 8, around that age when Chris Benoit murdered him. So I guess Nancy wanted to stick around and stay in the marriage, even if it was an abusive marriage. She wanted to stick around for her son, so her son would have his father around all the time, and then his two parents would live in the same house and be together. In this video, I may go 20 more minutes. I may go 30 more minutes. I don't know, but I got a couple more things to say. So, my suspicion is Nancy stayed with him and dropped the restraining order and dropped the divorce, dropped it because she's probably scared and afraid for her life. My opinion, she was probably scared and afraid for her life. I suspect, I'm pretty damn sure Chris Benoit took steroids, and he probably abused steroids in the WWE, because he always looked, not when he came in 2000, but 2004, 5, 6, 2007, Chris Benoit in his body, he just looked jacked, like he was on the juice. So he was probably taking a lot of steroids. I'm pretty damn sure he abused steroids. And he probably also was on painkillers. And he may have been addicted to painkillers. I wouldn't be shocked if he was, because the guy's probably always in pain. The guy had neck surgery in 2000, I think it was either No Way Out 2003 or Judgment Day 2003 pay-per-view. They carried Chris Benoit out, storyline, injury angle. He got taken out, I forget by who. He got taken out, carried out on a stretcher. I think it was Judgment Day 03, after WrestleMania 19. So Benoit in 03 was gone for a very long time. He had, I know he had neck surgery. So his body was really beat up really bad in 2003. From years and years and years and years of taking a beating and being on the road and doing that diving headbutt, that flying diving headbutt off the top rope did not help, for sure. That didn't help. And that was probably one of the reasons he needed neck surgery. And his neck fused. So, I'm pretty sure Chris Benoit did domestic abuse against Nancy before 2007. And before he was found dead. I think he had a history of domestic violence against Nancy. The guy's throwing around furniture, probably like the furniture was little toy cars. The guy was jacked. He probably had roid rage also. He probably had roid rage. And another problem I think Chris Benoit had was, I don't think he had any other, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't think he had anything else going on in his life that he enjoyed. Only thing he enjoyed was wrestling. Only thing he probably thought about 24/7 was wrestling. And probably when he was out with his neck injury, he probably thought about wrestling 24/7. And when can I get back in the ring? The guy was obsessed with wrestling. I'm not saying anything's wrong with that. I'm pretty damn obsessed with wrestling. But if I was a pro wrestler, and if you are a pro wrestler, and that's your job, you gotta have other things in your life that you enjoy to take your mind off of wrestling. You can't just, if you're a pro wrestler, you can't just be into wrestling and not enjoy anything else or not have anything else going on in your life. You just can't. That's not good for you. You would probably go insane, like Chris Benoit went. But he didn't just go insane because he had no other activities in his life that he enjoyed. I'm sure he enjoyed his son, and he enjoyed being a father, and he probably did enjoy being a husband. But I think he was too obsessed with wrestling, and that's not good. Especially if it's your job when Monday Night Raws and SmackDowns are over and pay-per-views are over. And you get in the car and you go to the next town, or you get on a plane and go to the next city or the next country. You gotta have other activities and things you enjoy to do, and other interests. You got to. If you're a wrestler, you gotta have other interests, but just wrestling. I mean, I'm pretty damn obsessed with wrestling, and I have a lot of other interests. I love to gamble. I love to play poker, and I love to gamble and go to casinos. And I love to bet on sports games and sports betting. I also enjoy video games. I enjoy video games a lot. I don't play them much. I basically only play sports games. But who cares what I do? I'm just saying I have many other interests other than wrestling. And I enjoy the outdoors. I enjoy being in the outdoors, in the fresh air. I enjoy nature, sitting outside, hearing birds, being out in nature. I enjoy fires, making a big fire, sitting by it, staring at it. I mean, I enjoy grilling. I enjoy watching sports, football, baseball, basketball, when the playoffs are going on. I enjoy hockey playoffs. I freaking watch soccer when it's World Cup time. I watch soccer tonight, Women's World Cup, USA against China. I'm not a fan of soccer. It's pretty boring to me. But I watched it because it's the World Cup, and I hope the U.S. women's soccer team wins the World Cup for the USA. I enjoy sports and video games and gambling, and I also really love wrestling. And I have a lot of other interests. Social media. I enjoy going on social media, talking to people on there I know. I also enjoy that. I enjoy booking, wrestling. I guess that's not a non-wrestling activity, but stuff like this, writing down matches, booking matches in my head, stuff like that. I would love to be a head booker, head creative writer for any company. I think I have a lot of great ideas up here. I think I'd be a great booker and head writer. And if you heard some noise, that's my cats running around, being crazy. Just want to talk about a couple other things. Before Chris Benoit did what he did, the guy had 2 children from his first marriage. He was married before he was married to Nancy. He had 2 children. first kid was born in December 92. His name is David. And his second child he had in his first marriage was born in May 97. Her name is Megan. So he had a daughter and a son in his first marriage. They're still alive. I believe his first wife, I'm pretty sure she's still alive too. Of course, his third child is no longer with us because he murdered him. And Nancy's no longer with us because he murdered her. And him, I have a few thoughts about him killing himself. He took the easy way out because he would have rotted in jail for the rest of his life. For damn sure he would have got life in prison. I'm pretty sure he would have got life in prison. Or he at least would have got, who knows if he would have hired a great lawyer to get him off. But I believe Benoit would have got 30 years or life in prison. He probably thought about that before he killed himself. So he took the easy way out because he did not want to rot in prison and get ass fucked in prison, because he probably would have. He probably would have been in a lot of fights in prison also, with a lot of guys testing him to fight to see if he was tough, because he was a pro wrestler. So killing himself, he probably thought of that. I'll kill myself so I don't have to go to jail. Or maybe, these goddamn cats. Or maybe he killed himself because he thought, maybe he thought he'd go to heaven, and he thought he'll just kill himself to take his pain away. Because he was, obviously he was sick in the head, and he probably didn't want to live anymore because of so many concussions and whatever he had. Dementia or Alzheimer's, whatever. As I said, they tested his brain. It was like a 76-year-old man's brain. And when I first heard the news of what Chris Benoit did to Nancy, and first off, when they had a Raw tribute show for him, it was then first news came out, and Vince McMahon was standing in the ring and basically said Chris Benoit was found dead in his house, and his family was found dead. So I think everybody thought he was murdered. I thought he was murdered in his house by an intruder or a burglar. I thought broke in his house and murdered his son and wife and him. So when they put on that Raw tribute show, I thought he was actually murdered by a burglar, and that his family was murdered. And I thought he had nothing to do with it. Well, I was in denial. Well, I didn't know the real truth until, I think, Tuesday. So they put on a Monday Night Raw tribute show. And they actually showed 3 hours. I believe it was a 3-hour Raw, because it was, I think it was right after the pay-per-view Night of Champions. I think it was right after the pay-per-view in June '07. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. But I remember before Raw, in the pay-per-view, I think it was Night of Champions. I don't have the information in front of me if it was Night of Champions. I'm just guessing it was Night of Champions, '07. Pay-per-view. Chris Benoit no-showed. And he was supposed to work against CM Punk for the ECW title. ECW Championship was on the line. Chris Benoit no-showed. I believe John Morrison took his place. I think John Morrison came out, took Chris Benoit's place because he no-showed. And Chavo has openly said, Chavo Guerrero has openly said he got texts that were really odd, and that the texts from Chris Benoit on Saturday or Sunday, and Sunday was the day of the pay-per-view, he got texts that made no sense, and Chris Benoit was just like babbling on, making no sense. So that was odd. That was a warning sign that something was not good and not going, and just, that was a bad sign. Him no-showing the pay-per-view was a bad sign, because Chris Benoit, if his head was right, he was always a professional, and he always showed up and worked every goddamn WWE event. They wanted him to work. He showed up and worked. He showed up at Raws, and a lot of Raws, a lot of SmackDowns. I don't ever remember Chris Benoit missing a show or a pay-per-view, even in WCW. Hell, his whole career, he probably, I don't know how many shows he missed. His 18-year career, I don't know, but I don't think it was very many. So, he no-showed the pay-per-view, was supposed to work against CM Punk. And then they have a tribute, Monday Night Raw tribute show for Chris Benoit. 3 hours of showing old Chris Benoit matches. And you can't blame WWE for doing that, because I don't think they knew the full story. And I don't think they knew that Chris Benoit murdered his son and wife. So you can't blame them for putting on a Raw tribute show. So they showed matches, him against Dean Malenko from a WCW Hog Wild pay-per-view in '96. They also showed, I believe, his WrestleMania 20 main event World Heavyweight Championship win. I think that closed the Raw show. And I don't remember what happened on Tuesday night. ECW was still on. It was on Sci-Fi. In June 07, I don't remember if they mentioned, I mean, Vince might have mentioned something about Chris Benoit. Well, I don't know what he said, I can't remember. Might have said Chris Benoit will never be mentioned in the WWE again, or maybe something like that. And before everybody knew the truth, before everybody knew the truth of what Chris Benoit did, and Vince did a storyline where he was basically like cheating death in these storylines, where you had that $1 million giveaway on Raw. He fell over the stage. I think the stage collapsed, and he fell under the stage. And then the set, a giant money sign, then the set fell on top of him, and he was like basically almost dead. That was a pretty cool storyline. I enjoyed it. I didn't get it. I thought, what the fuck are they doing? They're trying to kill Mr. McMahon off as a character or something like that. And then you have him walk to the back, maybe it was a week later or weeks later. He walked to the back past all the WWE superstars. Vince was walking, staring at them, looking at them. Then he went out the door, into the parking lot. Got in his white limo. Went in very slow, looked around, went in slow, shut the door, and his limo blows up into flames. It explodes. I thought that was an awesome storyline. I enjoyed that. I didn't enjoy it because I obviously knew that Vince McMahon was not in the limo and not killed. And I just enjoyed seeing the limo explode. I thought it was a cool visual to look at. I thought it was a cool thing for them to think of, to do, to explode a limo. It looked great to end Raw. You actually had people, I don't know what city or state they were in. It's probably in the South. You had idiots, or who knows where it was, but I think it was in the South. That Raw, where the limo exploded, it probably was in the South. Or maybe Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia. I don't know. Atlanta, Georgia is the South. Anyways, nothing against Atlanta, Georgia. But you had people that lived there, I guess, heard the explosion, might have saw the flames, or people outside the arena saw the flames or heard the explosion. And you had people actually watching Monday Night Raw, probably that were in that state, watching Raw. They actually called 911 to report an accident. And they watched Raw on their fucking television. I don't know what they were thinking. They must have thought Raw wasn't scripted. They must have thought WWE wasn't scripted and every fucking storyline they do is not scripted. I don't know what they were thinking. Those people must have really thought Vince got in that limo and died. And it exploded. Talk about working people. That definitely worked a lot of people. And those people that did believe Vince died in that limo and that they wanted fire trucks to get there to pull them out are fucking idiots. And if you watch wrestling and you don't know it's scripted, you're a fucking idiot. Anyways. So, basically after Chris Benoit did what he did, the WWE has never mentioned his name since. But one thing they have done since the WWE Network came out in 2014, last year, I was kind of surprised to see all the old WCW pay-per-views, all of his old WWE pay-per-views. They still have Chris Benoit matches added, and they did not take every Chris Benoit match out of WCW pay-per-views, WWE pay-per-views, old Raws, what else? ECW Hardcore TVs, Chris Benoit's on some of those. They did not take his matches out of the WWE Network old shows. That kind of surprises me. But he was a part of history. He was in those companies, and he should not be taken out of those old pay-per-views and Nitros and ECWs and Raws and whatever. Everything else he was in before he did this, I don't think they should censor and take all his matches out and take all his matches off the network, and they have not done that. So that's a good thing that they didn't take all his matches off the network, because maybe fans that did not know, or maybe fans that want to remember him and what a great talent he was in the ring, maybe old fans will enjoy watching his old matches on the network and get some enjoyment, and it'll put a smile on their face, and it will make them forget about what he did. It doesn't make me forget. I see a lot of his old matches all the time when I watch something, if he's in it. I don't skip over it, but I think I'll have this feeling for the rest of my life as a big wrestling fan, every time I see Chris Benoit pop up on my TV, on the network, or on an old DVD I have, or an old videotape I have that I watch, every time I see him, I say it out loud. Sometimes I yell it. Like, Chris Benoit can hear me through the TV. The guy's not even alive. And even if he was alive, he still wouldn't hear me yelling at him. I yell at the television when I see the guy. I yell murderer. And maybe a lot of people think I'm stupid for doing that. Fine. But I just get angry when I see the guy and what he did. I can't get past what he did. And I'm not going to forgive. I'm not going to forgive him. The guy's dead. But I'm not going to forgive or forget what he did to his young son and his wife, Nancy. I'm not going to forgive it ever or forget it. So when I see the guy now, anywhere, on YouTube or the network, when I see the guy, I look at him and I say, you're a murderer. You damn murderer. It's a damn shame he did what he did. It's a damn shame. And a lot of people can say he wasn't thinking, and a lot of people can try to defend Chris Benoit and try to defend what he did because his brain was all fucked up. And his brain was like an old man with dementia. I don't care. He still committed murder. And I'm going to talk about his career a little bit before I end this video. But I will say just a few things I've said before I talk about his career a small bit. He was a great wrestler. Anybody with a brain that's a wrestling fan knows that. He had a tremendous passion for the wrestling business. Everybody knows that. He lived the wrestling business. He breathed it. He definitely gave blood, sweat, and tears. And he did have a great wrestling career. But the guy is a murderer. And I hope he's burning in hell. And I was a Chris Benoit fan for probably over 10 years. When I started becoming a fan of his, 97 in WCW, 96, 97, I was a Chris Benoit fan until he did what he did. And I don't hold any hate anymore. Or maybe I do. I don't know. Maybe I do still hold hate towards him because every time I see his face on my television, I yell, "You're a murderer." Or I yell, "You fucking murderer." He had a great wrestling career, but I hope he's suffering right now, wherever he is. I hope he's suffering because he made his wife and his son suffer by killing them and ending their life. They didn't deserve that. They didn't deserve to be murdered at all. So, wherever you are, Chris Benoit, I hope you're suffering and I hope you're in pain. And maybe it's a good thing you committed suicide, so you're out of pain. But you ruined a lot of lives. I'm sure you ruined Nancy's family's life, and your 2 kids and your ex-wife that are still alive. I'm sure you ruined their life, and I'm sure they had to go to therapy, and they still may be in therapy because of what you did. As I said, the guy was found dead June 24th, 07. His body was discovered June 25th, 07, the next day. What else? He started his career, Stampede Wrestling, 1985 to 1989. He worked in Stampede Wrestling, and he was going back and forth, I believe, also to Japan. He idolized, as everybody knows, he idolized the Dynamite Kid. Dynamite Kid made him want to become a wrestler and get in the business. He met the Dynamite Kid in I don't know what year, but he met the Dynamite Kid when he was 15 years old. After Stampede Wrestling, 1986 to 1994, Chris Benoit worked for New Japan Pro Wrestling, on and off. Sometimes he was probably full-time there. Sometimes he wasn't full-time there. And after New Japan in 94, he went to ECW. Worked there for probably over 10 months, or close to a year. He was in ECW, had a tag team title run with Dean Malenko, feuded with Sabu and Taz, and the Public Enemy also. I believe he did hold a championship in New Japan Pro Wrestling also. I believe he became the IWGP Super J Cup champion in one of the years, in the 90s. I didn't look it up, sorry. And then after ECW, in probably the summer of 95, or the fall of 95, he left after he got an offer from WCW. I'm sure the offer was great. And also, Eric Bischoff, I'm sure, wanted to steal a lot of the ECW talent, because he did. Because Nitro was kicking off in 95, he stole Dean Malenko. Jericho came in later in 96. But he took Dean Malenko, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero. He took them all from ECW and to go to WCW. Because he needed extra talent for Nitro. I understand that, but he still signed ECW talent. But who the hell knows? Maybe Dean Malenko, Benoit, and Eddie probably wanted to leave ECW to get a bigger paycheck and make more money, and good for them. So he's in WCW after ECW from 1995 to the year 2000. He won the world title at a sold-out 2000 pay-per-view from Sid. And I believe Chris Benoit hated the backstage politics. He had enough. After he won the world title, he left. Went to WWF, showed up, I believe, in late January 2000 on a Raw, with Perry Saturn, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit were all sitting at ringside. They became the Radicals. They were the Radicals in their debut in the WWF. They were known as the Radicals. So, and he spent his time in the WWE and WWF from the year 2000 to 2007. In June 2007, tragically, he no-showed a pay-per-view, and then he was found dead after he committed 2 murders and killed himself. So everybody that has ever asked me on Twitter, should Chris Benoit go in the Hall of Fame, a lot of people, I'm sure, disagree with me and think he should go in the Hall of Fame just for his wrestling accomplishments and what he did in wrestling. That he should go in the Hall of Fame just for his wrestling career. Well, that is never going to happen. People, I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but that shit is never going to happen. WWE is never going to put Chris Benoit in the Hall of Fame. I believe Chris Benoit will never be put in the Hall of Fame. And I don't think he ever should be. A lot of people might disagree with what I have to say. That's fine. You can think whatever you want to think. And you can think all you want that Benoit should be put in the Hall of Fame. I don't think he should. Ever. Because I just cannot get over and get past what he did to his son and his wife. I can't get past it, and I won't. People talking about they want Benoit in the Hall of Fame and WWE should put Benoit in the Hall of Fame. No, they shouldn't. Nor should they ever even think about putting him in. I don't want to see him ever go in. As I said, the guy had a great wrestling career. I'm not going to deny that. He had a great wrestling career. He was a great technical wrestler. He had great matches with a lot of different people. He had great matches with Too Cold Scorpio. They had a great match at WCW Super Brawl 3. And they had great matches in ECW. Benoit had great matches with Kurt Angle. And had great matches with Triple H and Shawn Michaels. And Benoit had a lot of great matches with Eddie Guerrero also. But that does not change the fact that he's a murderer and he committed 2 murders. So, I'm done talking. Everybody that has ever asked me, should Chris Benoit go in the Hall of Fame, and then they ask me that all the time, please stop. I'm giving my answer in this video. I don't think Chris Benoit should ever get put in the Hall of Fame. And a lot will probably disagree with me. I don't care. Owen Hart should be thought of to go in the Hall of Fame. Just, you want someone to go in the Hall of Fame so bad. Forget Benoit. Forget what Chris Benoit did. I'm not talking about forget that he did murder. I'm talking about he's not going to get in, so forget trying and wanting Chris Benoit to go in the Hall of Fame, because it's not going to happen. Owen Hart. I want Owen Hart in the Hall of Fame. Great guy. Never killed anybody. And he was a great guy. Great family man. So, instead of wanting Chris Benoit put in the Hall of Fame because you're angry at WWE for not putting Benoit in the Hall of Fame, get over it and start campaigning for Owen Hart to get put in the Hall of Fame. And a lot of other guys that are passed away should be put in the Hall of Fame. And Chris Benoit should not even be thought of, ever. Guys like Rick Rude should be put in. Bam Bam Bigelow. Chris Candido. Who else has passed away? So I can't think. Big Boss Man. Put Big Boss Man in there. He deserves it. Who else? Hercules. Put him in there. He deserves it. Coco Beware's in the Hall of Fame, so put in Hercules. He deserves it as much as Coco Beware does. Who else has passed away? A lot of guys are already in there that are passed away. Road Warrior Hawk is in there. Mr. Perfect's in there. Eddie Guerrero's in there. And all those guys deserve to be in there because they never committed a murder, and they never killed themselves. So I'm done talking about Chris Benoit and the WWE Hall of Fame. He should never go in the Hall of Fame. Never. Ever. Hope you enjoyed this video. You don't have to agree with my opinions. You don't at all. That's fine. If you think Chris Benoit should go in the Hall of Fame, that's fine. I don't care. If you think that, good for you. Hope you enjoyed this. I know it went long. Went 55 minutes. I had a lot to say about Benoit. A lot to get off my chest about Chris Benoit. I've had people on Twitter asking me for 4 to 5 years about they want to know what I think about Chris Benoit and if he should get in the Hall of Fame, and the answer is no. N-O. Follow me on Twitter at TNA WWE Guy and at NXT WWE Guy. Have a good weekend, everybody. Bye for now.